Good morning and welcome to the Area Securities Markets Update. We'll start our video today with a look at the yesterday's rallies. The US dollar rallied across the board and recovering the entire losses that were recorded or that were occurred after the release of the FOMC meeting minutes. We can explain the US dollar move from the technical and the fundamental side, beginning with the easy part basically, which is the technical analysis. And by looking at the US dollar index on the weekly chart, we can see that the index broke above its long-term downtrend line, which began in 2009. And last week, the index closed the week well above that trend line. This is also, this week's move from the technical analysis view is just a technical retest of that broken trend line. The index fell toward 84.93 before recovering above that trend line, and today's close is very important, as the weekly close above that trend line support is likely to clear the way for further gains in the next few weeks. As for the fundamental side of the story, the FOMC meeting minutes is history, as we noted in our previous report. The minutes was written before the September jobs report, which came in much better than expected, and also led some of the Fed officials to say that there is a need for an earlier rate hike. However, the FOMC meeting minutes or the impact of the FOMC meeting minutes was short-lived, as the market realized that the minutes is history and the Federal Reserve view is not clear after the jobs report yet. So the attention right now shifts to this month meeting, which will be the key, and the US dollar also recovered its entire losses, while the US equities also continued with its long-term or with its long-awaited downside correction. As for today, and beginning with the Asian session, there were three economic releases which had a limited impact on the markets. The Bank of Japan meeting minutes came in unchanged as what they expected. The banks also repeated that the 2% inflation target is hard to be reached or to be achieved in 2 years from April 2013, meaning the bank also is expecting inflation not expecting inflation to hit the 2% target in April of 2015. Therefore, the chances for a policy adjustment remains on the rise. Japan's Tertiary Industry Activity Index also unexpectedly fell for the third month in a row by 0.1% in August, despite the fact that the estimates were to rise by 0.2%, and July's reading has been revised down toward 0.3% or minus 0.3% instead of no change. In Australia, the home loans fell for the first time in over 4 months by 0.9% in August, comparing to a rise of 0.3% in July, while the estimates also were to rise by 0.2%, and this is also the biggest monthly decline in 4 months. As for the European session ahead, there are three economic figures will be released from the UK and France in addition to Italy, and may have a medium impact on the markets. Beginning with France, the industrial production is expected to decline for the first time in 2 months by 0.2% in August, comparing to a rise of the same rate of 0.2% in July. In Italy, the industrial production also may rise by 0.6% in August after a sharp decline of 1% in July, which would be the first and the biggest monthly increase since 2 months. Finally, in the UK, the trade balance deficit is expected to narrow slightly to minus £9.6 billion in August, after the deficit widened to the highest level on record at £10.2 billion in July. Going forward to the US session today, three economic figures will be released from the US and Canada, while the main focus or the biggest focus will be, and the biggest impact will be, on the Canadian figures today. In Canada, the jobs report will be released later today at 12:30 GMT time. The employment change is expected to rise by 18.7 thousand in September after declining by 11,000 in August. However, the unemployment rate is expected to remain stable for the third month in a row at 7%. Finally, in the US, the import prices may decline for the third month in a row by 0.5% in September, comparing to another decline of 0.9% in August. These are the key figures or the key economic figures for today. However, we have two Fed officials will be speaking today. Plosser speaks at 13 GMT time, and Fisher's speech will be at around 19:30 GMT time. Moreover, it is the first day of the IMF meetings and the second day of the G20 meetings. Therefore, traders need to keep an eye on the official remarks. This is it for today. You can follow us on our social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to get the latest economic releases, reports, and analysis. Thank you for watching, and have a good weekend.